Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I want to, make a pouch. And you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, not another pouch. But what I want to explore is using different textures to create the pouch. Now, this idea I've had sort of floating in my head for a few weeks because I've been crocheting again, crocheting elements for my mouse chateau project. And inadvertently, that's brought out the bigger wools and the bigger crochet hooks, and I've started playing with a bit of an idea, which I want to, drag the element of granny squares into slow stitch. And I've got some fabrics here from Rachel's range, so roxycreations on Etsy is where you can purchase printed fabrics that have come from Rachel and Steph. And they're just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And in there was these French ladies. I think they're French, they might be Italian. It doesn't matter. It's the ladies that I've been sort of thinking about how to bring them into a piece. So with that in mind, I put together a selection of yarns that I had used in previous crocheted projects and blankets back in the 2000s. When crocheting was my thing, and I'd made quite a few pieces using these colour combinations. So they're sort of like my favourite go-to for crocheting. And I was gifted this from the lovely Suzanne. Now, Suzanne made this crocheted basket with little openings so that when your threads are in there, your wool, your yarn, you can pull them through these little holes to create, a vessel. And I love how she's put 3 colours of wool together to crochet up the vessel. It's just beautiful, Suzanne. I love it. So I was very quick to put in my favourite colour palette, which then led to about the timing I was crocheting again for the mouse chateau. And I started thinking about one side of a pouch being crocheted granny squares. So I found myself a little granny square pattern. It's a fairly petite pattern. It's not that classic granny square where it's, 4 pieces that you then build on and build on. I wanted something a little bit more, aesthetically pretty. So this is the pattern I decided on. I'll put a link below for the actual pattern if I can remember where I saw that, but pretty much it was a magic ring with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochets with a chain between, and then on that wheel, let's call it like a wagon wheel look, came the sets of the granny squares slowly building up to corners and a centerpiece, and then one more lap, and then I used the blue to whip stitch it together. So I got to the point where I had 6 of them. A couple of them are identical. I think they're the same. They're the same, and he's the odd bod in the mixing of colours, but they sort of blend quite nicely. So I wanted that slow stitch element, and I started joining them the traditional way with crocheting, and I'm like, oh, it's starting to look like a blanket. It's not getting that hand-stitched look. So that's when I decided to do a single crochet around the outer edge of the blue. That sort of bordered it up, but joining them was just a whip stitch of the dark navy blue. So I sort of now feel like it's joined the slow stitch world. So as for the pouch, I'll just bring the last one I did, the strawberry pouch. This one I don't want it to be open. I want it to have a flap. So it gives me another opportunity to, soften the crocheting with a detail here. And then on the reverse side can be featuring some slow stitching to sort of bring my little pouch together. So that's the plan. Before I start on how we construct it, I picked this piece up in the local thrift store, and it was in the kids section where they had a massive big bin of children's clothing for $1. And in there, this little piece was rolled up like so with a tie around it. I thought, oh, what is that? And at a first glance, it looked like new yarn, and it was. When I got it home, it was pristine. I'd say someone's decided to create maybe a blankie for a doll. I just love the colours. And it just never came to fruition. So I thought I'll give it a clean. So I've soaked it and nothing came out. The water was clean, which was a great sign. And it's now smells beautiful and it's ready to go. So my plan with this piece in future video is I'll pull it apart to get us back to the granny square. I'll have a think about, do I redo it using this yarn? So I frog it, I pull it apart and restitch it so that it's not as gappy. Or maybe I can find a fabric that goes in behind that it won't matter. I haven't got that far yet. I'm sort of thinking I might pull it apart and redo it. But look, another day. But I just thought I'd show it to you. And I thought, well, maybe you guys out there have a little remnant-y crocheted project that never happened. I also wanted to show it to you because it's another colour palette that might be more aesthetically pleasing to your eye than what I'm going to be doing here. I will be playing with this colour palette in the future because, gosh, doesn't that open up a whole playful world. So stay tuned for that, but I do need to, work out what I'm doing with my granny squares, which I'll prep ready for the project. All right, meanwhile, back here, I've got my little panel. The yarn that I'm using is a mix of Stallion, which is from Spotlight in Australia, and Marvel Soft, which unfortunately they do not do anymore. But there seemed to be one there, I just can't remember its name, that was very similar. So I was a fan of Marvel Soft in the day. They also have Marvel, but it's just not as soft. But I've got a mix of the three that were the number 3 yarns that they sold. But like I said, I haven't bought yarn for a while, so you may need to sort of source something yourself if you're going to teach yourself how to crochet by using YouTube, which I'd highly recommend because it is so simple. There's so many great tutors out there. Give it a go. Find a granny square tutorial, have a go, and then put your hook down and bring it into the slow stitch world, which is whip stitching them together, because that can be tricky, crocheting your squares together. So if you are a beginner, don't worry about that. Just needle and thread and wind through the stitches to bring your piece together. Anyway, so with the colour palette in mind, these are the 2 pieces that I picked. I like the fact that we've got a bit of blue. I like the fact we've got some browns and our ladies, of course, a pop of yellow. And then I found this one. I thought it's just beautiful. That side there. That doesn't really go with my piece, so I won't be using that. It's all about that. Isn't it just gorgeous? And the thread painting opportunities there is right up my alley. So we'll get to that. I've got myself some muslin, calico, just a base fabric. And I've also got myself some wadding because I like to stitch into pieces that are stabilised. So this is for the beginners, and I often get this as a question: what do you use to stabilise your fabric? Well, there's lots of things on the market that you can buy in the way of Pallons and iron-on products and stabilise your surface fabric that you're stitching into. Highly recommend it. You can also look at batting, which is my go-to favourite. I've always got batting around, so that's probably my first choice. And you can also use old vintage blankets. So it's whatever you fancy. Just, have a play and, go for it. The stabilising, this is for the newbies. Why do you stabilise? Because with our thread painting, stitching, and our collaging, it gets quite intense and sometimes quite tight with our tension of thread and needle. So to have thickness there, that alone would pucker. And it would be such a shame to get to the end of your project and it look like that. So stabilizing just holds things in place. As the word suggests, it's a thicker, I guess, substrate for you to stitch into. So now that is going to take quite a lot of tension before it starts to, you know, muck around. So that's for the newbies. Now, size. This is our base, so it can't be much harder than that. I grabbed a couple pieces here that I think will do the trick. Lining inside, I'm not going to worry about that at this stage. That's a decision for another day. I'll make my piece a fraction bigger. I haven't blocked this piece. I'm not a real fan of blocking because I'm impatient, and once I create blocks, I just want to stitch them together. Blocking is where you use pins or little pegs to pull out your wool, and it's moist and it dries in that position, and that just holds your piece more square. So especially if you're making clothing out of crocheting, it's imperative. I would highly suggest that that's probably the best use for blocking, because if you've got a little bolero made out of granny squares and it's all whoopee across your shoulder, you look whoopee. But a blanket, it's a lot more forgiving. So blocking is something you could consider if you think your granny squares are a little bit whoopee, but I'm not worried because we can stitch that into position. So that calico, I'm liking that on the background. So let's, how's this piece here? Size-wise, oh, it's a bit small. How's this one? Pretty much perfect. What I might do is I'm going to switch it out for this. There'll be no wastage. I had a feeling there was one of them that I grabbed that was very close to the size of my piece. So the aim of the game today is to set myself up with some stitching homework, and that is slow stitching this piece onto a backing, so that when I put bits and bobs in my little pouch, they're not going to fall through the gaps of my crocheting. So if you're wondering, why is she doing that? She's already got a side sorted. That's, I guess, my concern with this guy is the gaps are so big, it's going to really showcase a fabric behind. So what fabric do I use? Maybe I can find something that is suitable and complementary, that I don't need to redo those pieces. It would be fun to try and use them as they are, you know, someone else's hand instead of me crocheting. So I'm just thinking I'll pin this onto this background, and I will invisible stitch this to that. That'll be my homework. I won't do that with you guys because that's pretty boring stitching, but I'll just use normal sewing machine cotton, match something to the yarn, not that you'll see it because it'll bury itself down in the work, and in the process that will sort of square me up a little bit, I think. I've never done this before, but I can't see why it won't work. It's no different to us cutting up a doily. So that's my piece. One part of it. When it all comes together, we'll just hand stitch it together. Like, I won't be using a sewing machine, we'll just stitch it together. Just like we did with this one. I just did an overcast stitch through there, and it definitely sealed it up beautifully. So we'll be doing the same thing. All right, so that is pretty much ready to go away and be slow stitched down with invisible stitch. And I'll probably put some stitches in the center. I'll put some stitches here. Yeah, good. Now, being that that's more fabric, I might use the same principle to get my next piece, the back or the front, whatever you choose to be your base front. That doesn't have wadding under it. It doesn't need it. There's enough surface there. This one I will. This is going to be my decorative piece. So I'm just going to grab myself a chunk of wadding, line it up and trim it out. Oops. So this will be collaged and slow stitched into. And then once we've got all our bits and pieces, now you're probably thinking, what about the flap? Good thought. What am I doing about the flap? Are we going to attach it separately, or should I be cutting that now in the shape? I'm thinking about attaching it separately. The reason I like the separate idea, I'll grab another piece here, is it'll give us another rustic edge. If I wanted no rustic edge, you would have that as one piece and draw a bit of a shape, and that would become your flap. But I'm thinking we can create a flap and just slip stitch it on. Maybe that's a doily, or I don't know. I haven't thought that far. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do the flap in this video. I sort of feel like we'll see how it goes. What type of flap? Is it something that's going to be curved like that, or a square? Either way, I know that it will be attached to one of the panels. So let's say that that's the inside. That's now the outside. Get rid of that piece. Let's say that this pretty fabric is sitting here. So in that case, I think the flap will come this way, because the reason I say that is it'd be lovely to have some slow stitch popping over this side. So that means whatever the flap shape is, let's say it's just a straight line, it would then get stitched onto here, and that would then come over the top like so. So you'd have that attached to there, and then over the top she lays. Yeah, I like that, because that's going to give me just another interesting detail at the top here, instead of it being all one. Which does make me think I should probably have a little bit more height. Like that. You know, that there. Let's just pin it, have a little play. So if that gets stitched there, just bear with me as we problem solve it all. Overcast stitch. The side seams will be overcast stitch. That then comes down over the top of this. Lift it up, and you can get your hands in there, because there is that little bit of distance here between the two. That's how we'll do it. Now the shape of that flap, who knows? To me, it feels like it needs to be very square, but maybe I can find something that's got a bit of shape and it doesn't need to be as structured as that. But I'm not going to do that today. But what it does mean is this base that I've prepared under here is short. So I need to cut another piece. See, that's perfect for the Roxy piece. Oh, it never works out perfect, does it? I need to make this piece about that much bigger, which I'm going to do. So let's start that again. And purely because I want the top of my flap to be a little higher than the front, which I hope I showed enough in my video. in my show, demonstration just a second ago. So we're a fraction bigger. Let's straighten this corner off. And I'm going to come up here nearly an inch higher than the front panel. I think that will pay off. It's like an envelope. The bit that's at the back of the envelope is always lower than the fold at the top. Does that make sense? Otherwise, I think it'd butt into there. It would crash. So I'm glad we figured that out before we got too far ahead. All right. Spare piece of wadding, but that's pretty much my base. So size-wise, I should probably show you that, just so that if you are making one, let's have a start with my granny squares. So my granny squares are about 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square. Of course they are. They're square, Corrine. 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and there's 6 of them. So just rough, that means my pouch is about 11.5 inches by 8 inches. Now, of course, that would vary a little if you stretch it out more or let it just sit naturally. So my backing that is now bigger than the front, that piece of wadding is nearly 10, where that one was 8. So nearly 2 inches, which I think's good, because then this flap, let's say that's the flap now, can come down at whatever size I want it to be, attach at the top with a whip stitch. It can lay back and I can get my hands in there because it's not bashing up against that seam. If you want to shorten it, you could, but I'm thinking I'm going to leave it at that. I like that. It also gives me a bigger area to collage for my decorative front. Okay, I think we're there. So now I need a piece of fabric for this. And being that we'd already torn that one, we're going to just use it. And what I'll do is just do a patch. That one there goes all the way. That one doesn't quite, it's a bit short. But it'll do. It will do. So let's just do a rip and a patch. So if I had have thought that through, which I never seem to, I just jump on and nut it out with you guys. You know my style. You would have had that taken into consideration. So, but I guess this shows you how easy it is just to patch things too. If you find that your engineering of a project's not quite right, because we're slow stitching it together, you know, you'll problem solve your way to the end. So consider that now patched. All right, I would then just grab some needle and thread and we'll do a quick running stitch down there. And then I can get rid of those pins. And we can go to collaging the front. Now, another element that I ideally love to bring into my piece, I started buying the odd tapestry. Some are quite classic tapestries with those big stitches. Some are finer, like nearly a point, a petite stitch, for want of the couple different ways they say those words, petite stitch or petit point. Grandma used to call it petit point, but Susanna from Vintage Blend Studios calls it petite point. So I'm guessing it's just nationalities and how those words were said. So I've got a few of them now, and they're starting to look at me going, you bought me, what are you using me for? You know, it's like, it's so pretty. I love it, but I haven't used it yet. So I'm trying to dig into some of those types of things and go, all right, you're here, let's use you. So I grabbed the basket out. It's sitting on the floor beside me. And I'm going to try and piece in an element of that as well. I think it sort of suits the pouch. We've got a bit of a old-fashioned techniques pouch. It's crocheting, tapestry, and then of course we've got our gorgeous ladies. So, you know, they sort of suit. They'd be crocheting, they'd be doing tapestries, they'd be doing petit point. Yeah, all of those great things. I might pause the video now and I'm going to finish stitching this back stitch along here to join. And I'll put a few little invisible stitches around just so everything is seated. I've also noticed my TV that I mirror to has gone black. So I don't know what's happened there. So I can no longer see where my hands are to try and stay in shot. So I shall sort out that as well. So yeah, all right guys, back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. So I have cleared my desk a little bit. So I've actually packed away that excess batting and the excess calico. So to create the flap that's coming over to finish my pouch isn't just not going to happen in this video because I've put all those materials away. I want to just slow it down and focus on one surface at a time. And I think once I've got this stitched, I will then know what suits, you know, the rest of my project. So I'm yet to slow stitch that together. That's homework. But now we get to collage something from all of these gorgeous goodies. Well, we don't have many goodies yet. Let me show you the rest of the items I want to use. So in this little basket, I have some tapestries. So I want to get in there and have a little look. Oh, there's a crocheting hook. How did that get in there? Oh, because I was planning the project and the crocheting was sitting in there at one stage. So that's how quick you can lose a crocheting hook. So I used a 4.5 crochet hook for those there. I'm glad I dug in there. Gosh, I would never have found that hook. Oh my goodness, I tell you, that's how things go missing. So what I've got here is a little selection of pieces. Now, some of these I bought some time ago. And like I said, around the COVID times, because they popped up on Marketplace, and I thought, oh, you're just so beautiful. But I haven't done anything with them. This is one that you always see, birds and flowers, or just birds in a long frame down a wall. I must have attempted to use something in a piece, but it just didn't suit. So it got rejected. So I've got that sitting here as well. So that's something I can consider. This one here is beautiful. I know you're probably thinking, how could you cut into it? Trust me, there are heaps of these out there. I somehow think they were commercially made. I don't know. But there is heaps out there. They are growing in price, might I just say. They are really growing. So there's that one. And that's that petit point stitch. You can see the difference, traditional and tiny. Tiny, tiny little stitches. My grandmother would use those types of stitches for faces. This one here is really pretty. It's on a big piece. And even the work that's gone into this background using stranded cotton, that's all done. Just beautiful. Imagine sitting there doing that. Oh my goodness. That's a great surface. Like, that is so textural. That in itself is a beautiful piece. Maybe I'll use that as my pouch base. Would that be silly? Hang on. What size have we got? Do I want... It's so soft. I don't know if my size will be fine, but maybe we do that in another video. It's just not quite right. But that, oh, Wouldn't that make an interesting component to a pouch? I don't think I'm ready to cut into that one. I still feel like I want to squirrel that baby away. Isn't it beautiful? No, another day. Another day, another project. Here's another one. I think Susanna found me this one down in Ballarat. It was a stage where she knew I was picking up the odd tapestry piece. I don't think that suits our colours, so I'm going to put that one away. And I've already shown you this one. I just don't think I'm ready to cut into that. Leave it, put it away. I think we got enough here. It's good that something is cut into because that gives me potential. And I rather like these birds. So maybe. All right, we'll just sit the birdies to one side. We'll bring our base back in and our little bits and our main key pieces. I think they need to be positioned. Mr. Fudge is in the background. He was just curled up sleeping at the side of my chair there before. I'm going to separate that because it's just not the colours that I'm working with. I feel like it would be just too easy to plonk you down, so I'm going to separate you there. I'll cut above the black line because I could then use the black line as maybe a stitch line to create a vignette. You know, highlight the fact that that's fudgy. Yeah, I like that. Oh, isn't it beautiful? Oh, Rachel, goodness. And I know I want the ladies. And I do like those little flowers. Let's grab them. That's still very valuable. Fudge. Where do we position? These are my two. Fudgy. Puss, puss, come here. Puss, puss. So my two key elements. Flowers at the top, ladies at the top, ladies at the bottom. I feel like they need to be anchored feet on the ground. And maybe this, see, this is anchored, you know, so we've got stems here, so it makes me think that should be down here. Do they sit side by side? Yeah, they do. Fudgy, please. Pat the cat. Stop what you're doing. Pat the cat. I just think that's a bit simplistic. I don't want to break those flowers up. Sneak you over a bit. Maybe I raise them. I sort of feel like I need to mix it up a little bit. Tapestries, are we going to get these in? I sort of feel that it'd make a great element, but it's a lot of flowers, isn't it? Am I going to get a bird in? Oh, I need 6 pouches to make this work. Maybe the bird is something I do pursue. I love that, but I'm going to cut the bird off. Bluebird? Yes. Got enough flowers. Let's just do it, for goodness sakes. Just do it. Oh my goodness. I know that I can get more of these. If it turns out to be a cracker of an idea and I'm loving it and I'll do it again, I will get myself more birds. Won't I? Let's trim this down a little bit. It's very wonky. Tension was a little bit out on this one. But let's Let's just square it down a little. Do I want to fussy cut it out? Oh, I don't know. What's these threads? What's that all going to do? It's going to fur up a little bit, but that's probably okay. I might need to sacrifice this flower. Cut it down some more. Goodness me. It'd have to be cut down a fair bit. Just do it. Just do it. The bird needs to appear to be a little bit more petite. He is seriously overshadowing everything. I'd love him to be on the side, to be honest. But I don't know how we're going to pull that off. I wish it wasn't as wonky. It's messing with my eye a little bit. Maybe the girls need to be there. Maybe the bird comes in up here. Wonky little bird he is. There's going to be nothing left of this. I don't want to get too close to him. But I think I can. I want a bit of air around him so he doesn't look like he's just placed dead centre in that square. So that's why I trimmed over here to bring the image back across a little. Let's pin it. He's up in the air. He'll be just slow stitched, invisible stitched into position. Like I could fussy cut all through here, but you run the risk of it looking, what's the word? How do I describe that? I don't know. To the point of no return. Like if you really chop into it, it could look really odd. So I think I want him as a definite vignette sitting there. Now the girls. Do I bring that over to soften it? I think so. I think the girls are going down in the bottom corner. At the moment I can keep that, but it may go. I can work those little flowers. So let's pin you and you together. Laces and things like that. That'll be really good to drift across all of it, to marry, you know, all of these different layers together. Otherwise it'll look very square. I just don't know. They're so beautiful. And I so wanted them on this piece. It's just so square. Maybe I've just got to lose a bit of everything. No, level doesn't. Maybe I've got to lose that, bring the girls over. Then where would that go if they went more centred? Right, I think that will go there. And if I get rid of this, I'll see the yellow. And I can bring that over. I like how the bird is now above that. I'm just playing with the levels. No, then I lose my rose. I don't want to lose any more of that. Just going to trim this little bit off. Maybe I've just got to lose the rose. So it's trying to keep all these little elements. What do I prefer? A dainty thing? Oh, that'd be so beautiful stitched. Or a big bold thing. It's a very chunky, big, busy pouch. Maybe I just have to sacrifice the bottom there a little bit. That there could be stitched over the girl a little bit, that flower. Decisions, decisions. Just pinning that for now. I do like how I've got this little bit of blue in there. I do like how it's now a little bit off line, but I've lost my yellow rose. I think I can cope with that. And that comes up onto the bird piece. Now let's revisit these. Do I fiddle around with this a little more and bring in some more texture? So it sort of matches beautifully. That lavender is picked up there. That pink's picked up there. I think I will separate this. This is the fussy cutting out business now. Do we fussy cut this out a little? Well, we must be because I'm doing it. Oh my goodness. Let's get a little bit of softness about it. I just wasn't game to do the bird. I sort of felt like he might look a bit odd. I wanted him to be in the background and quite strong in his own right. Let's bring this little one in. Cuts really well, this whole tapestry business. I love how Karen from Railway Cottage uses tapestry in her pieces. So that's why I was like, you know what? Let's just have a play and see what we can do. It's the red one. I want those, but I don't want the red. Should I leave them together for a rainy day? Am I just putting it back into the box and I'm not using it? I'd so love to create a textured piece. If I say that out aloud, I'll do it. Can we handle red? Does it matter that there's that red? Do I stitch into it to knock the red back? Possibilities. Let's... I sort of feel like I could collage something with it, but I need it broken down. But boy, it's hard to cut into that. Is there enough going on without that? What's on this before I get too far ahead of myself? So I could bring a bit of a chocolate band through there. I like that. And those little stamps, I like that detail. So let's take that out. I'm avoiding a decision. Did you notice that? Did you notice how I changed attention over to here? I could bring in some other fabrics, but I don't know. I don't want to lose the aesthetics of the fabric. I want to stay in this palette. It gets tricky to add other fabrics in unless it's something like a ticking or, you know, what I'd call a very neutral friendly fabric. It might be a case of that's what I need to do. I don't know. I do like those. There's nothing else on there I want. I do have this still. I cut it off there, didn't I? Where did that come from? Off there. I don't think I want to use that. I feel like it'd be too heavy. My question is, do I bring in that broken down there like that? I'm going to fussy cut some more off of it. I think if I get it down to be more of a petite looking piece, it mightn't feel so blocky. Often that helps. Well, the flap for the pouch is definitely going over the crocheted side. There's no way I want to cover all this. Oh, here's an idea. Could have this been part of the flap? Let's do just a quick audition. I love how there's stitching and then there's the canvas. See that? I love that detail. Couldn't create that if you wanted to. So if you're out thrifting and you see an old tapestry that's got a bit of petty point in it, this finer stitching, I think it's the perfect size stitching for a project of this size. Some of the other tapestries I've got, they're the ones Grandma's done. There'd be no way in hell I'd be cutting those up, so don't panic. I sort of feel like the stitch is too big for a little project like this. I might be wrong, but that's just my feeling, unless it's a neutral thread. Let's just have a look at this side. What if this became the flap? Oh my goodness. Oh, that's what we're going to do, guys. That is going to be the flap somehow. And that'll tie it into this. Without this. This here, I love it, but it's overshadowing the girls. It's too much. It's beautiful, but I just think that maybe we create a piece here, collage, that matches this. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay, I need some more fabric there. So I'm just going to grab my Rachel Fabrics and have a little look. Or do we look at ticking? Possibly. Do I look at my French fabrics? Possibly. Let's grab them. I don't think I want a neutral fabric. I think I want something that's bold. This is my neutral zone where the girls are. Very soft. I love that. It's soft, but I still feel like this needs to be substantial. So maybe a piece of ticking coming through just to help build up. Bit of texture, I don't mind that. Picks up on the red, pinky red down there. What else have we got? No. No, I feel like I'm heading in a different colour palette. That might hold its own. Give me a bit of a heavy feel of just a piece of this. Maybe it's underneath the ticking and underneath that. Just a pop of burgundy out the back there. It does help bring the red in, doesn't it? Sort of makes sense now, that red flower. Gee, I'm glad I didn't separate that. That was a close call. I'm thinking maybe just, I like the scrolls on there. There's another ticking. Another old piece of fabric. I sort of feel like the colours are better on this, but gosh, she's an old girl. No. This to me felt a bit fresh, not grungy enough. No. It's finding that right colour combination. I don't mind that. And I would probably bring it down onto that. So that would be the top edge, just a stripe. What do you guys think? Keep it simple. Bring them up through there to break that line. Might move the flowers over a little bit. I don't mind that. We've got so much going on everywhere. Just, I feel like I'm encroaching on the girl's skirt a little. Hey, there, those yellow flowers. Oh, just let them go, for goodness sakes. I think I can do something with that sprig of yellow flowers and potentially carry it up here. Maybe that's what I do. Can I cut them out? If that stayed there, here's an idea. If that stayed there and I slice through there, that then covers the fact that I've pilfered out that little corner. We know we can patch over here with that, and I love the fact that we've got those stamps. I love the fact that we've got a bit of height happening here with this one coming up, and I can easily trim that back a little bit, which I will now. I'm just going to pinch a bit off of that. I like the black line that is there. Now it's time to really get our position right. That'll allow those flowers to pop through a little more. I could even, you know, nibble down into there a bit. Like crinkle it up or something. I don't mind that idea either. Now what I'm thinking is I get real sneaky and cut in here and pinch out those flowers. Let's just do it. Let's try. The girl's determined to get those yellow flowers out. Probably at the detriment of the whole piece, but no, we're going to do it. And I'm going to nibble through there. Right. Look, you'd never know I did that. No one will ever know. I must lose a bit of the girl's skirt, but we can live with that. I've just got to put some good stitches through there to make that look like that didn't happen. They will go in and around and connect some zones. somehow. That is definitely going there, but under, over, under. I think I need to cut that little yellow edge out. It's just looking odd. I don't mind the white edge because I can stitch in there. It sort of makes sense with the black. I think that needs to be under because I want to see a little bit of that text. It's just going to peek out there. And it just needs to cover the bird bottom of the tapestry. And this one comes onto the tapestry. And I can always soften it with another piece of something going through there to push all that back, but that's not a major concern. Happy with the height, trimming the bottom. Okay, that's set in stone now. You watch me change it in a few seconds later. All right. Now let's have another look at it. Bring it back down. Are we happy with this piece? I think so. I think it's just giving that a place for the eye to rest. Bit of old French ticking makes sense. So I think that will come down into there like so. I can hear a frog croaking. In the pipework. Does that mean rain's coming when frogs do that? I like that edge. I'll probably end up breaking up that a little with some lace or something. Let's get all these bits out. Are there any bits here we like? No. I'm happy that I've managed to sneak red into it, actually. Especially if the pouch is going to have that as part of the flap. And I think I'll make the flap follow that. I don't know. I'm going to think about that. It's definitely happening, but so this little guy is going here and he's going to look like he's peeking out but connected to him. Here we go. All right, we have some placement of pieces. So my stitching will be secure all that down. See, there's little, oh, look at, oh, the yellow roses. You're thinking, you're probably yelling at the screen. The yellow roses, Corrine, sort the yellow roses out. Well, let's do that. I notice in behind the girls here, see there's some pink roses. How do we make that look like it's happening? If that got trimmed, I do like those pink roses. I sort of feel like I need to stay up here somewhere with these. Do I tuck that back under there but allow it to come through like so? I do have fine flowers mixed in with bold flowers, but I'm okay with that. Maybe I do that. Do I like that? Oh, there's my phone. I better go and answer that. Won't be a moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just as I walk back to the table, that I didn't like. I sort of think that bit of text there gives all this a chance to breathe. It's like I'm happy to have lots of different little vignettes of flowers everywhere, and size doesn't really worry me, but I'm thinking that I want to have this over here instead, and potentially I need to work the girls. So what I might do, I mean, I'm not work the girls. That sounded terrible. I need to work the space around the girls, and I need to thicken it up a little bit so it holds its own. So I'm thinking instead of trying to make this feel like it's connected to that branch, that's going to go there. And what we'll do is I'll stitch these little pink flowers and potentially bring them up through as well. So that creates a bit of a scene around them. That's what I'm going to do, if that makes sense. So that is just going to be plonked right there as just a little element. Stay away from the side seam because we don't want the big chunky stitches that'll join all this together, which will most likely be blue wool. So let me just bring that over. This edge will be there. So that works. Okay. All right. There we go. Let's trim that piece of old ticking off. So I'm happy with that. I'll stay to the line because we can always trim it back. Okay, so there we go. We've got the start of something. I'm going to toddle off and slow stitch with invisible stitch all of those elements in place. I might as well trim this off as well. This might actually pop up somewhere else. And then in the next video, we will have our base all secure and we can start thinking about what we do to, you know, embellish and stitch and maybe a bit of lace and things like that can reappear so that it feels like it's all connected. Yeah, see, I don't mind that. Or it comes off over here at an angle, and then you can drag pieces like that over to here and they become part of the flap. But I think we've got something there, and it might be a case of those leaves come up and over the top a little, and then I get a bit of a straight edge there. Anyway, that's all part of the project. I'll keep that. All right, that's it. Okay, guys, time to stitch it all down, and I will see you in part 2 when we start to do all of the embellishing and playing and stitching, and oh, can't wait. All right, guys, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.